As you will see later on in this video, I put myself through a bit of mental torture reading this series, so leaving a like and subscribing would be highly appreciated. Now with all that generic YouTube crap out of the way, we could get into the video. It's that time again where I talk about a really bad manga that gets more attention than any of the good stuff I recommend. Anyways, recently I've been on a horror manga binge, and there were some good ones, some meh ones, and then there was this. Pumpkin Night. Currently ongoing with 88 chapters, good artwork, and one of the worst plots I've had the unpleasant pleasure to witness. The story starts with a girl being killed by someone wearing a pumpkin head and using a knife, and then a scooper after she receives a text from said person in the pumpkin head. Then revealing the girl murdered was a part of a group of bullies that bullied the person wearing the pumpkin head to the point of no return. Just like Jujika no Rokunin and its first chapter, admittedly this caught my eye. But my manga spidey sense kicked in, and I knew immediately that this was going to be another gore-fest mess of a story. And, I think, well, because as the group of bullies are trying to process what's going on, is that Kobeni? I couldn't be bothered to remember her name, so we're just going to refer to her as Kobeni, okay? She ends up running off after the news breaks out and separates herself from the group. Okay, I've never understood this. Instead of taking time to write an actual cause and effect scene where the character is forced to be split up, the character just decides to split up at all for no reason. There's no advantage in doing so. There's no logical reason for why the character would do this. They just run off because the plot demands that they run off to make it easier. So, this had crappy slasher written all over it already. Love it. Just love it. Knockoff Kobeni then runs into a mall and predictably gets caught by the killer, and then is kidnapped before then being put in the same coffin as the girl who was previously killed and is about to be cremated. However, they manage to save the girl as they hear banging from the inside and screaming, and she's taken to the hospital where she's severely burned. And guess who shows up at the hospital to finish the job via electrocution? The good old Pumpkin Night. This sort of cycle of Pumpkin Night hunting down the bullies and killing them is to be expected and predictable, but there is some important information we do need to go over, and that is Pumpkin Night's name being Naoko. And one of the people in the group of the bullies is actually not too bad, and his name is Kazuya. And his biggest sin, if anything, is just simply not intervening and stopping the bullies every single time they went and did something to her. And the final time, they ended up crossing the line a little too much. And you can pretty much get a semblance of feelings between these two characters, Kazuya and Naoko, as she reveals herself to him in the hospital, and he's clearly haunted by guilt, and she says that she still has plans for him. So this isn't your average slasher gore-fest manga. This is your yandere slasher gore-fest manga. I'd be lying if I said I wasn't at least a little interested into the mystery of what they did to her and what the dynamic between Naoko and Kazuya would turn into. But beyond that, I didn't really expect the story to offer me much more, especially once the bullies revealed that their only cause for bullying the girl is that they just thought it was fun. So this is just another basic mindless revenge story. As well as the story does make an attempt to make you sympathetic towards Naoko and, you know, all the horrible things that they ended up doing to her and the prank they pulled on her where one of them put sulfur bags in the pumpkin head, which is what left her face so horrified and scarred. But I feel like all that sympathy goes out the window once you've already established in the first chapters of the story her just murdering people in the most brutal way, even people who aren't really at fault for what they ended up doing to her. And the turning point early on in the story is when Kazuya finally is public about his feelings towards her and the fact that they loved each other. And so the bullies end up kidnapping Kazuya and Naoko with the plans to just get rid of them once and for all. And guess who comes along to help them? One of the bullies' dad, the bully whose name is Naruto, and his father is Donald Trump. So, Trump here and his son end up throwing Naoko and Kazuya down this giant hole, and Kazuya ends up surviving, but Naoko is killed when she lands on some spikes, but it doesn't matter because later on in the story, she's brought back to life again. It's like Michael Myers. This is supposed to be a normal dude, but bro just won't stay dead, and you just can't, before I jump the gun actually, before we see her get brought back to life, the vengeance plan is completed on the final bully and his Donald Trump father when Kazuya himself takes on the spirit of Pumpkin Night and becomes a mass murdering killer himself. So Pumpkin Night is more of a spirit entity than it is one person now. Now, the second half of the manga so far then sort of goes into this whole thing where Naoko goes to save Kazuya from this psychic ward, the one that she was held in, which is actually being run by the mother of Naruto, so the wife of Donald Trump. I don't even know what I'm saying anymore. There was a doctor that was helping Naoko sort of recover her memories and all that stuff, as well as a police officer, and then a femboy that helps Naoko break into the psychic ward to free Kazuya. My boy, I'm trying. Listen, this is what happens in the manga. Like, I'm not pulling your leg. Read it and see for yourself. But it would be an absolute sin to talk about the series and not bring up the... I don't even know if I want to describe them as the amazing or just the god-awful translations that are done for this series. It's very clear that whoever translated this was British because of all the British slang that's incorporated with the characters, and it sticks out like a sore thumb. But the translations that this series is given into the English really leave some true gems of brilliant literary creativity and excellence. Certain gems such as, ready or not, here I come, spelled the other way. Begone thought. Honest, it was just a prank, bro. Did you find Hillary's emails? You looking at my bussy player? Bloody wankers. Hope you Reich Red Bull, cause your head's gonna get wings. Look, this was already an over-the-top revenge story with a very all-over-the-place plot and a very poor attempt at making me sympathetic towards characters that really have no business at all being sympathetic towards. But these translations admittedly made it a little more fun, although all the more eye-rolling and ridiculous. Now, in the part of the story where Kazuya does take over as Pumpkin Knight, the design given there is raw. And like I said, the artwork throughout the series is really good at certain moments. So if you like an over-the-top, just mindless revenge story, then have a blast with this. But overall, recently the whole military got involved, despite the fact that both Kazuya and Naoko are happy on an island together, and it's just, you just can't justify certain things. This is just awful. Like, there's just nothing about it other than the fact that it's mindless fun, I guess, that I could see any sort of appeal in. It's pretty much the same thing with Jujika no Rokunin, but at least Jujika no Rokunin's first chapter really set up a potential for a character that I could really enjoy, and it proceeded to turn into worse and worse and worse and worse. This was just... I already knew what this was going to be from the jump. It's my least favorite type of horror, no matter what sort of medium you put it in, where it's just shocking for the sake of it in the moment, instead of ambient horror, which really pulls you in and makes you immersed. Every event that happens in this story just is something to be laughed at, in my opinion. I would personally never recommend this on top of all the other horror manga that I've covered and that I plan to cover in future videos, but I know some of you are going to read it because this is one of those series that you can have fun with for all the wrong reasons. Again, the most memorable thing about this series is the character designs of Pumpkin Knight, Naoko, and Kazuya. As well as, again, just the insane translations, along with some of the brutal and over-the-top executions that happen throughout the series. But any sort of story that makes me say Naruto's father, Donald Trump, and Femboy in the same video should let you know that this might be one you don't really need to read, in all honesty. A few years ago, I was harsh on Ichi the Killer, and after rereading that, I see more of the appeal to that story now. But this is just... Yeah, no, this is without a doubt, I think, out of all the horror stories and horror manga that I've read over the last few months, this is by far the worst one.